In last video, I was talking about why the heart is a path, and I mentioned a couple of times one of the 4 components to, in a concrete way, practicing it through one method. There are probably a lot of ways, but it's called compassion, and it's a common word in the dictionary that people learn. How most can relate to the essence of it is, for example, if you see an injured animal, you most likely feel something. And that feeling is compassion. If it's not clouded by what we often also have a problem with, that is, when we feel this, or when we notice this, what's really is compassion is coming up when we see something, when we witness a suffering of some sort in anyone, including ourselves. A very common response, sadly, is that we feel very uncomfortable with that and try to push it down. And sort of start to associate it with something bad, something we want to annoy, something we want to avoid. And a theory where it comes from, that behavior is that the most of us, like 99% of people, we raise our kids in a way that teaches this, that we, as soon as a kid gets sad, the parents rush to make the sadness go away. It's even a common thing to say in movies that keeps coming, is that don't cry, or please don't cry. That is a problem in itself, because it teaches us that not all emotions are okay. And one of the first thing that we learn if anyone tried therapy of some sort, I think most of them includes an acceptance, an unconditional presence with the feelings. For example, if you want to help someone really with their feelings, if they're sad, first thing we usually do is, okay, but if you think positive, then it will get better, or if you just forget it, it will feel better, or if you take a drink, or if you get a job, or if you change job, or you start giving all kinds of solutions, which is just the second half of the solution. The first half makes sure the second half even works at all, and that is unconditional presence. And actually the same goes for compassion. It's a paradox, or it's two opposites that needs to work together. First, you find the object, but if you have an object of suffering, it could be yourself, could be anyone, could be everyone. at the same time. Then you need to be able to be present with that. Sit with that. Stand with that. Be with that wounded animal presently. Don't rush to trying to avoid the feeling that is rising up. Because that feeling that is rising up is leading you, if you allow it, to compassion. This urge to make it feel better, or to make it stop, to make the suffering stop, is compassion. But if we, again, can't sit with that either, if we, like, of course, this is very different from if it's an emergency, because then you need to use that urge to help, to do it actively. But this practice, compassion, that stems from the Buddhism, actually, in the Brahma Viharas, by the way, is a path, if you are interested in that sort of thing, to enlightenment. Also, when you have purified your heart through 4 components: compassion, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Where were I going with that? But compassion is one of them, and I was already beginning to explain a little bit of how to. It is quite simple. You have the object of suffering. You have presence with it, and you wish for the end of suffering. And exactly. I was pointing at if it's an emergency, then you have to not just sit with it, of course. But in this practice, it is for purifying the heart, which leads to, like I said, if you want enlightenment, if you go all the way and purify, you learn basically emotional alchemy. You can transform any situation, anything that life throws at you, into love in different ways. But today we are focusing a bit on compassion. And why I picked that first, it's because I think out of the 4, I just practiced actually. I think the most common one is loving kindness. And the second one is compassion. But I've had the most concrete luck or success with compassion in its practice. When I got introduced to it by my friend Ryan a few years ago, I was practicing it in meditation, and one of my first targets was a person close to me, and this person and I have you could say, a complicated history. And but it felt very right to pick this person as one of my early objects, because I know a lot of this person's history, and it was relatively easy to go into a lot of suffering memories of this person suffering, and sit with that we sat 30 minutes at least in just mindfulness warm up on each session, and then we went into maybe 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes of art practice. And I remember this period was quite amazing, because not only was this practice giving me pretty cool sensations immediately as reality shifts, because the thing that I went into explaining a bit more in general in the last video on why the heart is a path, the thing is that I spoke about there also is that if we, like most people, including me, and so we go around life and we have these spontaneous moments. For example, when we see someone suffer, and then we get the compassion right there. But like I said, we often stay there for just like a few seconds before we try to get rid of that feeling. And we don't know then that if we stay there, that is actually firstly a very healing thing to do. I should mention that I also, when I spoke about this with a person, with a friend, and we spoke about Jesus for some reason, I looked up on ChatGPT what were the components that Jesus, or what did he do when they say he went around all over the place and healed people, and people could sort of sense that they got healed even if they touched his robe. And one of the ingredients that I saw that GPT said, without me speaking about compassion before with it said it was compassion, but also other things that were supposed to have happened. So that's, to begin with, some sort of healing, also tied into what I said earlier about it's the first component of many therapies, where you begin with you need to establish an unconditional presence until the patient feels themselves that they are ready to solve things. Until then, it's not possible. It's just you're just postponing the whole thing to another time, because it never goes away if you don't look at it. And a common belief that reinforces this is that we think that, yeah, but it's a black hole of endless sadness that I won't come up from if I stay unconditionally present with it. That's just that's an illusion, actually. Because it's actually the opposite. If you don't give it your every timeless second you have, with the intention that I will sit here forever, until you are okay. If you don't do that, then it will be forever. Stay there. It will stay there forever. But if you sit with it, it's pretty quickly gonna go. What came to mind now is that I should probably make a video also sometime here about maybe my biggest realizations ever that I had this year that solved my lifelong problem of being sick often when I was a kid, especially, but a teenager, and then being so hardcore into diets in my adulthood that, and even that not really working. But a spoiler, a little sneak peek is that it has to do with presence and accepting. But I will talk about that another time. So I was speaking about the benefits of compassion, and a second benefit is that what I noticed, except for, like I said, my immediate feeling of actually physically jumping into my heart and feeling the vibration change, like I spoke in the last video about more. That came also in this meditation on compassion when I was still with this object of mine for 20 minutes and just reinforcing this method, being with that and constantly wishing, just wishing, feeling the wish, feeling the natural wish of that I wanted to end the suffering. It's a trick. It's not easy to just jump in and do. For some people that are natural, that is easy because it is easy in its essence. But for most people, we are not. It takes some practice and dedication to sort of go beyond the words. That is the case for any meditation, actually. We get instructions in the beginning to just get going, but I see that as more of a rocket capsule, if you say that in English, the thing you need in the beginning to have enough force to go up. But then when you reach the atmosphere, you need to let that go and to be able to continue in space. And that is how I see meditation oftentimes in my experience, that we use a lot of techniques that we learn mentally. We have to learn it that way in order to come up, to even get close to the atmosphere. And in this case, to what we mean in compassion and get into this heart space, that start to get familiar a bit with what it is in practice and not just what we believe it is. It's a big difference between concepts mentally and actually sensations and experiences. So being there after just a few, in my case, lessons on it, because I really went in for it. I felt this is super cool, and I asked a lot of questions to my teacher about it, and so I got this immediate sensations during the meditation where I jump into my heart and reality shifts and you just feel that nothing else matters. And it's so purposeful. It's everything. Love. You can see the truth, probably. But it's interesting because it's a technique and you're so focused on one thing right there. But then what's more to come, if you continue with this practice also, I should say, is that you learn to do it. You can learn to spread it towards the entirety of existence simultaneously and feeling at one with the universe, which is quite a chill feeling. And then you can use it situationally, whatever comes up. You can practice getting better at it, being a martial arts master at it. If life throws you lemons, you make lemonade, sort of, in emotional alchemy. It is quite a life hack, actually. Once you mastered it. And I haven't mastered it myself fully like that, because then I would probably, I would be enlightened or something. I don't know, but mastered it fully to me is, like I said, to be able to tune into it every time or all the time, navigate reality, surf it through that, and transform in alchemy everything into its appropriate response. And sometimes compassion isn't enough, and that's why there are 4 things you need to master simultaneously as well. But I will go into one of, like, each of them at a time at some point. But for example, if you don't understand joy, compassion can be a little bit too hard, too low key for you to really thrive and be your best, give the best to the world. But yeah, so except for that, again, if I had those experiences in my meditation, that was cool and all, and I felt a great focus, and I felt my rocket ship going into space, sort of there, when I could just, I forgot about the words, really. I just was in the feeling of compassion and just reinforced it very subtly through things that really is hard to explain with words. It's a practice thing. But let's just say I was in great meditative focus, and my heart was, it felt like it was growing. And what's more, and especially important, is that it felt that my relationship with this person grew and we got closer. Through only this meditation from distance, I was getting closer and getting a better connection with a person that I knew, that is close to me, and that I know still. Not new. That was what I corrected only. And what's even more is that in reality, then I don't know why exactly. It could be because I myself felt closer and I can open up more when we met. It could be that, and it could be because there's this thing that I read, this cliché, so that if you change yourself, you also change others in a way. I don't know, that is very abstract, but in my experience, which is concrete, we got a better relationship since then. And this person, even, I'm really sure that it's around this area where this person started to include more, and even me then, both But I think this person initiated it by starting to use more heart emojis in texting and messaging. It's a funny detail in our modern world, but it's a big way how we communicate, and they can mean a lot. Emojis also. And so that's a powerful story, in my opinion, that you can just pick a person and one by one and make your relationships better with this person through meditation. But then a probable ingredient was that I acted on it as well. In life, not just on the cushion. So yeah, I think I've gone over most of what I should say, but I can just repeat the practice again then. And you can also look up meditation, guided meditations on compassion. I'm thinking of doing maybe one myself at some point to fit really my understanding of compassion and put it into a recording, but I don't know if my friend and teacher on this, Thai Ryan 1, or After Awakening on YouTube, if he has any on YouTube still, or if he put them up, because we were doing this on live. But you can also book a one-on-one with him on, if you look up Ryan and After Awakening, he has a website. But otherwise, the basics, and you can practice this alone also, is like this. Again, I have said it in a different way or a similar way, but it starts with having an object. And before I say that, I should also mention, I forgot that in the beginning, I had Ryan was actually speaking about this, and it showed to be very true that having yourself as target is a very hard target. I remember I said, probably only half truly, that I didn't have anything to feel compassion for because I didn't feel bad, because I was good, and I have been good all my life, mostly to, as soon as I feel bad, I speak about it with someone, and I solve it through that. So I remember blaming that I didn't really get into compassion on when I had myself as a target. But I've come to notice years later that it's really a matter of seeing better, looking deeper, because we have also been programmed so much in our society, and which is a good thing, to not be too sensitive also, to just, like, if you feel a little bit pain somewhere here and there and you feel a little bit suffering, it is so common for us to feel that. So if we would stop all the time, maybe we couldn't go forward in life, I suppose. So it's not just a bad thing. But if you I got a blank mind there. What was I saying? Compassion. programming. Okay. So it's a problem that I had, that I didn't look close enough. And I think such a thing as mindfulness meditation or even Vipassana could be the perfect meditation for this too, where they scan the body for uncomfort and be with that. I think it trains your perception or your perceptivity to actually see, because nowadays I can see, I find it an equally easy target to feel compassion for myself, because I'm very aware of that I suffer also, like everybody does. And speaking about training to see, it's really incredible to start to see that indeed everyone suffers. Pretty much always in some way. And according to this guy, I'm not a Buddhist, by the way, but I think he's cool, and we had this candle holder and stuff here, and I thought it was beautiful. But he was pretty sure on that life is suffering. I haven't dived so much into the reality of that, but I can see it experientially that, sure, even in me, if I take the worst parts, there is still small unseen parts in me that go unnoticed many times, and maybe there are parts in you as well who have been unseen for their whole life almost, and they work and they suffer. Even if they do well, they can suffer through doing well, and yeah, I can't stress it enough that it's a practice thing. You just have to have the intention to want to learn this through practice. But you learn to see that, sure, there is suffering in pretty much everything if you want, as well as it's super important to learn to see that it is joy in pretty much everything as well. And you can start to frame things appropriately with enough training, where you can, it's a very common and trendy thing to manifest, and you want to manifest through a high vibration to get the best outcome from it. And that's where it's very important, or it's a nice tool to be able to see that pretty much everything can be something good. Everything that's happened could be really good, actually. And what's really wise and cool is when you see that it can coexist, and it really does, that I can feel joy. And this is where the alchemy is, that I can feel some sort of joy for life because I feel love, because I witness suffering and I'm present with it, and I feel my compassion to change it. Yeah, it sounds complicated for the mind, but I think the mind can be amazed by it as well, and intrigued enough if you feel called for it to start to, or continuing this practice. Okay. Or maybe I should give an example of something I learned to notice even though I take the worst things and talk about them, usually, in my life. And so it can be small things like physical things. I have pain, I have an injury here, and I have an injury here, and I have sort of an injury in my knee, and that is enough to just. It's so easy to, if you're a survivor, to just, yeah, I'm a hero. Never mind that. Let's just focus on the big picture, right? But in this practice, like in a practice of trying to find trying to reach into compassion, the skill often really comes down to being able to zoom in enough on what actually is there. But for an absolute beginner, it's recommended to just take something that is easy for real, or the most easy thing that you can, and that's often another person or an animal. But then when you grow your practice, you need to start looking. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's that for examples. So, okay, to repeating the process then. Recommended is like sort of relax and people relax in different ways. Many people can do it through breath. And other people through just noticing your mind, your thoughts as clouds, coming and going, and sometimes disappearing, and sometimes becoming a storm. And then we notice that our minds start to take a back seat eventually. And we can begin this practice with compassion, and you have an object of your choice of suffering. It could be a memory or a present suffering in yourself or in another, or a pet, or in many people, or the whole existence if you can or want, or feel drawn to it. It's not nothing is better than anything else. It could be your family, a friend, maybe a tree. I haven't thought about it using nature. And then you see the suffering, whatever it is, at this memory or moment. You stay there. You don't try to change it, nor try to change what you feel, nor what the suffering person feels. You just are. And simultaneously, you wish that this person is relieved of pain and suffering. And then you go back and forth. You go and, like any meditation, when your mind, your thoughts always comes back in a distraction. When you realize it, you go back. And in this situation, you go back to your object. You see again person and its suffering and this situation. And you witness how you naturally wish for it to end. And with enough time, you can start to perhaps go and sort of merge these words, these instructions into a simpler personal version for yourself, where you just see what works, what creates compassion in your case, in this practice. It could just be you see the whole situation as an image if you want, or you just feel it, and it may run itself. But as a beginner, the way there is through really contemplating the practice of using this method of having an object of suffering and the wish for it to end. Being present and accepting everything as well at the same time. Yeah, so I will leave you with one more thing that I remembered that I could do when I met this person that I had done this with or on. And I spent time with this person, and I really felt that it was for the first time in my life possible to keep looking them in the eye. Because before it was too painful. But now with this present and this technique a bit trained, I could be with it and turn it into something beautiful for both of us. Thank you for watching or listening or stuff. So have a really nice weekend.